Hey everyone! So I know that I have finally read the entire Percy Jackson series, and we need to talk about it. As you know, if you've been following some of my videos, I read a few of the books in the first Percy Jackson series in September and then the rest in October. I am now working on the Heroes of Olympus series, and that is going fantastically as well. I'm going to do separate reaction videos to each of those books. For now, though, I'd like to just talk about the entire Percy Jackson series because I went my whole life thinking that it was overhyped. When I was at that proper age when everyone was talking about them, I was reading Warriors and Guardians of Ga'Hoole and all of these more animal-based books. And a lot of people compared Percy Jackson to Harry Potter and just how fascinating the world was and everything. And I didn't really care for Harry Potter. Oh gosh, I'm about to lose a lot of followers for that. I wasn't a huge fan of Harry Potter based on the movies. I haven't read the books yet. I will read them and let you know. Anyways, and so I figured Percy Jackson was just the same thing. It's just getting really hyped up and it might not be as great as they all said. And then I grew up and it kind of just got on the back burner. I finally read them this year and I'm so glad I did. I had no idea what I was missing with Percy. He is a character. I had no idea that a 12-year-old could be so sarcastic and so funny and so just like go with the flow even though all of this terrible stuff is happening and just somehow find a way out. Anyways, I read book 1 with the intention of probably only reading this book, and if I thought it was okay-ish, I might read the second, but it's for middle graders, so like I wouldn't like that. I'll just, read it so I can say I've read it and move on. Well, I got addicted. And honestly, this isn't even the best book, but this just establishes so much and establishes his character and kind of how he behaves. And it is just, I was just like cracking up. I was like, how does a middle schooler act like this? And then all this stuff kept happening. And then I got attached to Annabeth because of what was growing there and Grover and all his like hilarious shenanigans. And I was like, okay, I want to follow these 12-year-olds. I gotta know where they're going next. Because if they could survive that, how much worse could it possibly get? I mean, they literally almost died like 20 times. Well, it gets worse. The Sea of Monsters gets a lot worse. The Sea of Monsters was good. I honestly would rate it as like my least favorite in the series, just because I didn't feel like there was as much character development stuff going. The pace was so fast. They're all fast-paced. But the pace was so fast with this just because there were so many places that they had to go and monsters they had to fight. Which is like every book. I don't know why I'm saying that. There's something about this one that just wasn't as intimate as the others. I don't know, the story itself and the monsters that they fought in this one I wasn't as interested in. And so I'm this far along and I'm thinking, oh, this is good for middle grade. I'm actually enjoying this series. I think if I was younger I would really enjoy this series, right? And then I read The Titan's Curse. This was a game changer. I don't know what happened to Rick Riordan between The Sea of Monsters and The Titan's Curse, but it was on a whole other level in this book. Like, the sarcasm level, the character development, the types of monsters they were fighting, the stories that we were seeing come together. And Percy especially, like the kind of character development he goes through in this book. I mean, obviously he's going through them in the next 2 books as well, as he's just learning about his parents and how the gods interact with humans and how little they interact with humans and how frustrating that can be, and yet he's sort of becoming his own person, I feel like, in this book. I think another great thing that I liked about this book was the introduction of Talia. I don't know if I'm saying that right. It could be Talia. There's a couple of different ways that people are saying it. I listened to part of this book on audio from multiple different people on YouTube that made the audio, and they all said it different. I'm going to call her Talia. But the end of Sea of Monsters with that big reveal where she, literally the last line of the book is her saying, I'm Talia, daughter of Zeus. Whoa, had no idea that tree was going to get to be a person again. Like, I was not prepared. And she's honestly one of my favorite characters in the whole series. She's just such a bad A sort of character. She's kind of who I wanted to be when I was in like upper middle school, lower high school, like the eyeliner, dark clothes, just cool and someone that everyone's afraid to talk to. It irritated me that Percy would sometimes be like, not jealous of her, but kind of worried that she was going to be one of the big three that, you know, saved them from Kronos or whatever. I don't know. I think he was overreacting. But it makes sense for the characters. I just loved everything about this book. It was, oh my gosh, I can't. And I really liked the last two books simply because we were kind of seeing the whole story come together. You know, the first two books especially, it felt a lot like just random quests, like not super related at all. It didn't feel like yet. And it was more of like a children's like, oh, we're gonna do this specific thing and wrap that specific thing up by the end of the book and not really address the big things happening in the background. These address the big things, like the way that Kronos is forming in this book, which I also love about these books, how all of the covers are very accurate to like the most momentous part. As soon as you get to that scene, you're like, oh yeah. They do the same thing in the Heroes of Olympus too. I love it. But the Battle of the Labyrinth was so cool, and just like everything that was going on, I was so stressed out. There was so much building on the bad people's side. I was like, how on earth are they gonna fix this? Like, how are they gonna win this battle? It doesn't even make any sense. And so this was my second favorite in the series because it's just like the Titan's Curse, there's a lot of character development, and there's also a lot of story. Just like all that build up that we were seeing in the first few books is coming to life. It's becoming very streamlined. The problem I had with the last book in the series, and honestly it was a good book, but the last book literally started and ended in the same 24-hour period practically. It was the battle, the whole battle with Kronos and his army. And that's cool. Like, there were some cool scenes in that. It was very cinematic. That scene where Percy knows that his weakness is the small of his back and Annabeth is trying to protect it. So cinematic, so scary. And just all of his fight scenes and every interaction with Kronos ever was just, ooh, like I was not ready. But it's okay because it ended pretty well and none of the main characters died, kind of. I'm trying to not be spoilery at all in this video because I just want people to know that the Percy Jackson series is worth reading. So I'm trying not to spoil people who have actually read it. But pretty much the main characters live, if that makes sense. So yeah, that is my quick review on all 5 of the books in the Percy Jackson series. I could not recommend this more. I am so ashamed that I spent my whole life saying it was overhyped and I didn't need to read it. I especially am ashamed that I watched the movie and judged it based on that too. I just want to make a formal apology to everyone about the couple months ago me that still believes that. My mind has been changed. And I do think somebody should step up to the plate and make a movie that's actually accurate to the book. It's funny timing because I've heard that Disney is picking it up as a series. Now that's scary to me because series is usually worse about sticking to the plotline than movies. But it's Disney, and I mean the books were written under Disney, so maybe they'll be true to the story. We shall see. I will be right there when it airs, like ready to go with my books. Anyways, I think I'm rambling now. Thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, have a fantastic weekend, and I will see you next week. Bye! There's a bus going by.